He was the man who leapt through fire, bled on broken glass, and made the world believe one hero could save it all. Today, Bruce Willis, the voice of Die Hard, struggles to speak. His family has revealed a heartbreaking truth. The action star who once filled theaters with his voice now fights to hold on to it. But this isn't where his story begins. Long before fame, Bruce was just a boy caught between two worlds. Born in Germany in 1955, raised in a working-class New Jersey town. Life wasn't easy. Money was scarce, and even worse, Bruce developed a crushing stutter. Kids mocked him with the cruel nickname Buck Buck. Speaking in class became torture. Every sentence was a battle, and then something unbelievable happened. At 15, Bruce stepped onto a school stage. The stutter that had haunted him vanished. For the first time, he spoke clearly, powerfully. The boy who could barely get a word out discovered a voice that would one day echo through Hollywood. That single moment lit a fire, and it would drive him straight toward a destiny no one could have imagined. But finding his voice was only the first step. The real fight was about to begin, in the crowded streets of New York City. After discovering his voice on stage, Bruce Willis felt unstoppable. But passion doesn't pay rent. By the late 1970s, he dropped out of Montclair State and took the biggest gamble of his life, moving to New York City with nothing but a dream. New York was brutal. Rejections piled up fast. He auditioned for plays, commercials, bit roles, over 100 in that first year, and walked out empty-handed almost every time. To survive, he worked long nights as a bartender, pouring drinks by day and memorizing lines by night. Sometimes he slept on couches, sometimes on benches, but no matter how bad it got, he refused to quit. What saved him wasn't money, it was personality. Bruce turned the bar into his own stage. He joked, he played harmonica for tips, he skated to work to make people laugh. Even when no one was watching, he performed, and slowly the city began to notice. Then came the night that changed everything. While breaking up a bar fight, Bruce's nose was smashed so badly he needed emergency surgery. Doctors warned it might damage his voice forever. Instead, it gave him a scar, a mark that would one day become part of his tough guy image. He didn't just recover, he came back sharper, hungrier, harder to ignore. During those rough years, he built friendships that would last decades. Behind the counter of a small bar, he met John Goodman. The two performed wild, improvised shows for tiny crowds, screaming and laughing like madmen. These weren't polished Hollywood scripts, this was raw energy. And it shaped Bruce into something unique. Unpredictable, magnetic, unforgettable. By the early 1980s, the cracks finally began to show in the wall of rejection. He landed small parts in commercials, blink and miss roles in films, even a brief scene with Frank Sinatra in 1980. Nothing big yet, but momentum was building. The once stuttering boy from Jersey was inching closer to the spotlight. Still, nothing came easy. For nearly a decade, Bruce scraped by, living on scraps of opportunity. Yet with every rejection, he grew stronger, sharper, and more determined. He wasn't just chasing fame anymore, he was training for it. And then, in 1985, fate opened a door. A television audition would transform him from a struggling bartender into an overnight sensation. But getting the role wasn't easy. In fact, Bruce was rejected 11 times before the producers finally said yes. And when he walked on set, the chaos that followed nearly broke him. By 1985, Bruce Willis had clawed his way through years of rejection. Then came Moonlighting, the chance that would rewrite his life. The role was highly coveted. Nearly 3,000 actors wanted it. Radio stars, trained performers, even established TV names all lined up. Bruce wasn't supposed to stand a chance. ABC rejected him not once, not twice, but 11 times. Most people would have walked away. Bruce didn't. He shaved his head, wore earrings, and stormed back in with an attitude that refused to be ignored. Instead of sticking to the script, he ad-libbed his lines, cracking jokes and making the producers laugh. Suddenly, the outsider nobody wanted became the star they couldn't resist. When Moonlighting aired on March 3, 1985, Bruce Willis was transformed overnight. The charming, unpredictable private detective he played wasn't just a character, it was him. Viewers couldn't get enough of his speed, wit, and magnetic presence. But behind the success, the set was a battlefield. His co-star, Sybil Shepherd, clashed with him constantly. They argued before takes, snapped at each other off camera, and sometimes refused to speak between scenes. The tension was so intense that it bled into the show, ironically making their on-screen chemistry even more explosive. The production itself was chaos. Scripts ran nearly twice as long as normal TV episodes. Filming took endless hours, with episodes costing over $1 million each. Bruce was stretched thin, and the pressure mounted until his body gave in. In 1988, he collapsed from exhaustion and had to be hospitalized. Fans saw the confident, fast-talking star on their screens, but behind the curtain, he was burning out. And yet, even as he fought through the grind, Bruce found time to shock everyone. In January 1987, at the height of Moonlighting's success, he released a music album, The Return of Bruno. Critics mocked it, but audiences didn't care. The album went gold, selling 500,000 copies and even hitting number 2 in the UK. Bruce sang alongside soul legends, proving he wasn't afraid to take risks, even if people rolled their eyes. By 1989, Moonlighting had run its course. The delays, the fights, the exhaustion, it had all taken a toll. On May 14th, the show ended. But Bruce was already looking far beyond television. His salary had jumped from $1,500 gigs to $50,000 an episode, and Hollywood had started to pay attention. Little did anyone know his next move would shake the entire industry. A role rejected by nearly every major action star was about to land in his lap. And it would change Bruce Willis's life forever. Because when he walked onto the set of a little film called Die Hard, no one could have predicted it would turn him into the most unlikely action hero of all time. When Die Hard landed on Bruce Willis's desk, it looked like a long shot. The script had been passed around Hollywood like a hot potato. Arnold Schwarzenegger turned it down. Sylvester Stallone wanted no part of it. Even Frank Sinatra, oddly enough, had been asked because of an old contractual clause. But he walked away too. So when Bruce, best known as the fast-talking guy from Moonlighting, was offered the lead, the industry laughed. Paying him $5 million for the role? Executives said the studio had lost its mind. Bruce was unproven, risky, and far from the muscle-bound image audiences expected. But by July 15, 1988, all the doubt disappeared. Die Hard exploded into theaters, making over $140 million worldwide. Audiences didn't just watch John McClane, they saw themselves in him. He wasn't invincible like a superhero. He was a regular man, limping, bleeding, cursing, desperate to survive. And that's exactly why people loved him. Yet behind the box office glory, the price was steep. During one stunt, a detonation went off too close, leaving Bruce with permanent partial hearing loss in his left ear. He kept it quiet so filming wouldn't stop, but the damage never healed. It was the first of many hidden wounds he carried long after the cameras stopped rolling. The success opened doors Bruce never imagined. Just a year later, he voiced a wise-cracking baby in Look Who's Talking. 4 days of work earned him a staggering $10 million thanks to a profit-sharing deal. A film made for under $10 million ended up grossing nearly $300 million worldwide. Suddenly, Bruce wasn't just an action star. He was proving himself as a shrewd businessman. But Bruce refused to be boxed in. In 1989, he shocked fans again with In Country, a quiet drama about a Vietnam veteran struggling with trauma. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it revealed a different side of him. Sensitive, layered, willing to take risks. Critics praised the performance, even if the box office numbers didn't. By the 1990s, his career was in full swing. Die Hard 2 crushed theaters on July 4, 1990, raking in over $240 million. This time, Bruce demanded $7.5 million up front, plus a cut of the profits. Hollywood no longer doubted him. He was the bankable star everyone wanted. and by the third Die Hard in 1995, his salary had soared to $15 million. But not everything he touched turned to gold. The Look Who's Talking sequels flopped, and lawsuits over unpaid profits painted Bruce as difficult. His personal life began making as many headlines as his films. Marriage to Demi Moore, 3 daughters, and eventually a storm of rumors, affairs, and a $90 million divorce settlement. Still, Bruce had one more surprise up his sleeve. In 1994, Quentin Tarantino cast him in Pulp Fiction. The role of Butch, the washed-up boxer who refuses to throw a fight, wasn't about explosions or one-liners. It was gritty, real, and unforgettable. For just $800,000, far below his usual fee, Bruce showed the world he was more than an action hero. And it worked. The movie won an Oscar, grossed $200 million, and reignited his career. The boy who once stuttered, the bartender who once slept on benches, had now become one of the most bankable, versatile stars in Hollywood. But the higher he climbed, the harder the fall waiting around the corner. By the mid-1990s, Bruce Willis had become unstoppable. Every role seemed bigger, riskier, louder than the last. And yet, behind the flashing cameras, his personal life was already starting to fracture. In 1995, he took a massive gamble with 12 Monkeys. Instead of playing a wisecracking action hero, he became a broken man from a post-apocalyptic future. To prepare, Bruce visited mental hospitals, studied the fragile movements of patients, and even lost 20 pounds. The dedication came at a cost. He fractured his shoulder during a stunt, but the performance was worth it. The movie earned over $160 million worldwide and snagged 2 Oscar nominations. Once again, Bruce proved he was more than fists and explosions. Then came The Fifth Element in 1997, a neon-soaked sci-fi spectacle unlike anything Hollywood had seen. Bruce hated the tight orange vests he had to wear, but he threw himself into the role of a cab driver turned reluctant savior. The $90 million gamble paid off, making over $260 million and cementing the film as a cult classic. Bruce's mix of gruffness and charm made the chaos work. Without him, the film might have collapsed under its own weight. But 1998 pushed everything to another level. Armageddon hit theaters, and Bruce was front and center as Harry Stamper, the oil driller sent to save Earth from an asteroid. It became the year's top-grossing film, pulling in over $553 million worldwide. Families cried during his improvised farewell scene, critics rolled their eyes, and Bruce even walked away with a Razzie for Worst Actor. Still, audiences loved him. He was no longer just a star, he was a global phenomenon. While his career was climbing higher than ever, his marriage to Demi Moore was cracking under the strain. The couple, once Hollywood's golden pair, had 3 daughters together, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah, and tried to balance fame with family life. But whispers of affairs followed them both. Bruce was linked to models, Demi to her co-stars. By 1998, after 11 years of marriage, the fairy tale collapsed. Their divorce, finalized in 2000, cost Bruce nearly $90 million, one of the most expensive splits in Hollywood history. Publicly, they claimed to remain friends for the sake of their children. Privately, the tension was sharp. The man who saved the world on screen couldn't stop his own home from falling apart. Yet even through heartbreak, Bruce refused to slow down. He kept reinventing himself, chasing roles that forced people to look past the tough guy image. And just when critics thought he was fading, he delivered a performance that no one saw coming. Because in 1999, a quiet thriller with a shocking twist would remind the world that Bruce Willis was far from done, and that his career still had secrets to reveal. Just when critics thought Bruce Willis had peaked, he stunned them with a quiet, haunting role. In 1999, The Sixth Sense hit theaters. Bruce played Malcolm Crowe, a child psychologist helping a troubled boy. No explosions, no machine guns. Just subtle emotion, patience, and a twist ending that left audiences gasping. The gamble paid off. The film earned nearly $673 million worldwide, becoming the second biggest movie of the year. Bruce was paid $14 million, but what mattered most was respect. For once, the conversation wasn't about his action hero swagger, it was about his acting. He had carried one of cinema's greatest twists without giving anything away, and fans never saw it coming. A year later, he teamed up again with director M. Night Shyamalan for Unbreakable. Playing David Dunn, a man who survives a train crash and slowly realizes he might have superhuman abilities, Bruce leaned into restraint. The film cost $75 million, partly because of his $20 million paycheck, but earned a loyal cult following. Though not a massive hit at the time, it would later be hailed as one of his most thoughtful performances. But the early 2000s weren't all triumphs. Bandits in 2001 was overshadowed by rumors of an on-set affair with co-star Cate Blanchett. Tabloids had a field day, and the gossip nearly drowned the film's release. Then came Heart's War in 2002, a costly World War II drama that flopped, losing MGM over $50 million. Bruce had pocketed $15 million, but the experience left him questioning his choices. For the first time, he admitted he was unsure of where his career was headed. He found his footing again in 2007 with Live Free or Die Hard. Older, grittier, and playing a John McClane facing cyber terrorists, Bruce reminded audiences why they loved him. The movie grossed $383 million, but not without consequences. During filming, a car stunt went wrong, leaving him with a concussion. Combined with the hearing loss from the first Die Hard, his body was collecting scars no one could see. Even so, Bruce showed a surprising lighter side in between blockbusters. In 2006, he voiced a sly raccoon in Over the Hedge, a family-friendly comedy that made over $330 million worldwide. Fans were shocked. Bruce Willis in a kids' movie? But it worked. He made even a cartoon raccoon sound tough, funny, and endlessly watchable. By 2010, he was back in action mode with Red, playing a retired CIA agent alongside legends like Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, and Helen Mirren. The mix of humor and action was electric, and the film made nearly $200 million. A sequel followed in 2013, though it lacked the same spark. But not all headlines were about box office wins. That same year, drama erupted on The Expendables 3. Bruce demanded $4 million for just 4 days of work. When the producers balked, Sylvester Stallone publicly blasted him as greedy and lazy. Within 72 hours, Bruce was out, replaced by Harrison Ford. The fallout made headlines worldwide, and for the first time, his reputation took a visible hit. The cracks were starting to show. The roles were getting smaller, the scripts weaker, and the once unstoppable Bruce Willis was beginning to slip into a dangerous pattern of straight-to-video films that left fans wondering, what happened to their hero? The answer, as the world would later learn, was devastating. Because those forgettable films weren't just bad choices. They were silent signals that something was terribly wrong. By the mid-2000s, fans were confused. Bruce Willis, once a headliner who commanded millions per role, was suddenly appearing in a string of low-budget, straight-to-video action films. He was cranking out as many as 5 in a single year, movies that barely made headlines, let alone profits. To audiences, it looked like greed. To critics, it was laziness. His performances seemed hollow, his screen time often cut to just a few scattered minutes. The spark that once electrified theaters felt dim. But behind the scenes, something far more tragic was happening. In March 2022, Bruce's family broke the silence. He had been diagnosed with aphasia, a brain condition that robs a person of their ability to communicate. Suddenly, all those awkward performances, the use of earpieces on set, the reliance on stand-ins, it all made sense. Bruce wasn't phoning it in. He was fighting a battle his fans never saw. He retired from acting immediately at 67. Hollywood mourned. The action hero who once shouted through explosions was now losing the very thing that had carried his career, his voice. Then in February 2023, the news grew even darker. Doctors confirmed his illness had advanced into frontotemporal dementia, a rare, incurable disease that strips away language, personality, even mobility. His wife Emma Hemming described the heartbreak of watching Bruce drift further away, saying she once thought he was just distant, not realizing it was the disease taking him piece by piece. By 2025, the decline had become impossible to ignore. On August 15th, Bruce moved into a specialized care home. The decision devastated his family, especially Emma, who called it the hardest choice of her life. But with their daughters, Mabel and Evelyn, still just 13 and 11, shielding them from the worst of his condition became her priority. The facility cost over $200,000 a year, staffed around the clock. Friends and family visited often, sharing meals and laughter where they could. But for the man who once carried entire films with his presence, even a simple conversation had become impossible. And yet, the fight wasn't over. Every so often, a spark of the old Bruce would break through. A sudden booming laugh, a twinkle in his eye when someone played a track from his 1987 album, The Return of Bruno. Those rare moments reminded his family, and the world, that beneath the illness, the spirit of Bruce Willis still flickered. The truth was heartbreaking but undeniable. The action star who once looked unbreakable was now living proof of life's fragility. And as fans looked back, it wasn't just his career or his fame they remembered. It was his resilience, the way he fought battles both seen and unseen. And that final fight was still unfolding. Bruce Willis was never supposed to be a star. He was the stuttering kid called Buck Buck, the broke bartender sleeping on benches. The outsider rejected 11 times before anyone gave him a chance. And yet, he became the man who redefined what a hero could look like. Not perfect, not invincible, but real, bleeding, broken, still standing. John McClane wasn't a superhero. He was a man with grit, humor, and just enough stubbornness to keep going. That was Bruce Willis, on screen and off. The world remembers him for the explosions, the one-liners, the iconic smirk under impossible pressure. But the real story is deeper. His life was never just about fame or money. It was about survival, resilience, and carving out a place in a world that told him he didn't belong. Now, as he faces the cruel grip of dementia, his family carries the weight of his legacy. They sit by his side, holding on to fleeting moments of laughter, music, and light. They remind the world that even when the voice is gone, the spirit remains. Bruce Willis showed us that heroes aren't born in comic books. They're forged in pain, in struggle, in the everyday battles most people never see. And while his story is heartbreaking, it's also unforgettable. Because even in silence, Bruce still speaks. Not through words, but through the legacy of characters who taught us all something about courage. And maybe that's the lesson. The strongest heroes aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who keep fighting, even when the fight seems impossible. Bruce Willis fought every step of the way, and in doing so, he gave the world more than movies. He gave us hope that even the most broken voices can leave an echo that lasts forever.